Most people believe their value is measured by how often they are seen, by answering every message, by always being available, by proving again and again that they care more, sacrifice more, and endure more than anyone else. It feels logical. If people see your effort, they should recognize your worth. But the human mind doesn't work that way. In fact, it often does the opposite. The more predictable your presence becomes, the less attention it receives, and that is where the quiet tragedy begins. Not because people suddenly become cruel, but because certainty slowly erases appreciation. You never notice the sound of your own heartbeat until something feels wrong. You never think about electricity until the lights go out, and you rarely recognize someone's true value while they remain endlessly available. Only when the silence arrives does the mind begin asking questions it ignored for months. That is the strange law almost nobody talks about. Absence reveals what constant presence quietly hides. Most people spend years trying to explain who they are. They defend themselves before anyone attacks them. They apologize before anyone complains. They over-explain every decision, hoping clarity will finally earn respect. Without realizing it, every explanation sends the same hidden message. I need your approval to believe in my own value. People may never say those words out loud, but they feel them. Human beings are remarkably sensitive to emotional dependence, not because they consciously analyze it, because they instinctively respond to it. The disturbing part is that the harder you try to convince someone of your worth, the less convincing it becomes. Real value rarely argues for itself. It simply exists. Think about the last conversation where you desperately wanted someone to understand your intentions. Maybe it was a partner who misunderstood your silence, a friend who kept taking your loyalty for granted, a family member who dismissed everything you tried to explain. You searched for better words, longer messages, clearer arguments, more patience. Yet somehow, every new explanation seemed to push understanding even farther away. Why? Because the conversation was never really about logic. It was about perception. People don't always respond to what you say. They respond to what your behavior teaches them. If your actions communicate that you'll always stay, always forgive, always return, the mind quietly files that certainty away. Not out of malice, out of efficiency. The brain is designed to conserve attention. It stops examining what it believes will never change. That's why routines disappear from awareness. That's why familiar faces become invisible. And that's why people who constantly give without limits often become the least appreciated. Not because their contribution is small, because it has become expected. Slowly, almost invisibly, you stop being recognized as a person. You become a permanent condition, like the floor beneath someone's feet. Always there, rarely noticed, until one day, the floor disappears. Imagine walking into your workplace tomorrow and one person simply isn't there. Not the loudest person, not the one who constantly demands recognition, the quiet one, the one who solved problems before anyone noticed they existed, the one who stayed late without announcing it, the one everyone unconsciously depended on. At first, almost nothing changes. Meetings continue, emails arrive, conversations move on. But then something begins to feel different. Small mistakes appear. Questions remain unanswered. Deadlines become heavier. The atmosphere subtly shifts. Nobody planned to miss that person, yet everyone begins feeling the weight of an absence they never acknowledged before. That is how the mind recalibrates. It notices what stability was quietly, holding together only after stability disappears. Relationships follow the same invisible pattern. Most people don't wake up one morning deciding to undervalue someone. It happens slowly, one familiar interaction at a time, one predictable response after another, one more sacrifice that receives less gratitude than the one before. Then something changes, not outside. Inside you, a quiet exhaustion begins replacing the desire to keep proving yourself. You stop speaking as quickly. You stop volunteering for every emotional burden. You stop chasing conversations that only move in one direction. At first, it feels uncomfortable, almost guilty, as if protecting your own peace somehow betrays everyone else's expectations. But that discomfort is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's evidence that an old identity is beginning to disappear. And what happens next is something most people never expect. The silence doesn't only reveal who values you, it reveals whether you ever valued yourself enough to stop performing for acceptance. Most people never reach this point, not because they lack courage, because the silence begins to speak before anyone else does. The moment you stop reaching first, your mind starts creating stories. Maybe they never cared. Maybe they already forgot you. Maybe disappearing was a mistake. That inner voice becomes louder than the people you stepped away from. And that is the real battle. Not with them, with yourself. Because silence removes distractions. It leaves you alone with every insecurity you managed to hide through constant activity. For years you believed your value came from being needed, from solving problems before they were spoken, from anticipating disappointment before it arrived, from carrying emotional weight that was never yours to carry. Without realizing it, your identity became tied to usefulness. You weren't simply kind. You became indispensable. Or at least you tried to become. The difference is subtle, but it changes everything. Kindness is freely given. The need to be indispensable is quietly driven by fear. Fear that if you stop giving, people will stop choosing you. Fear that your presence alone isn't enough. Fear that beneath everything you do, there may not be enough of you left to love. That fear is older than most people realize. It rarely begins in adulthood. It begins in small moments that seem insignificant. A child who learns that being quiet avoids conflict. A teenager who discovers that achievements earn affection. A friend who notices people only call when they need something. Little by little, the lesson becomes permanent. If I want to matter, I must keep proving that I do. Years pass. The behavior becomes automatic. You answer immediately. You forgive quickly. You apologize even when you're wounded. Not because you're weak, because you've confused peace with self-abandonment. The disturbing part is that people often accept the version of you that you continuously present. If you teach them that your boundaries are flexible, they stop looking for them. If you teach them that your time is unlimited, they stop respecting it. Not always intentionally, simply because repetition becomes expectation. Human perception adapts faster than gratitude. What once impressed people eventually becomes normal. What once felt generous becomes assumed, and what becomes assumed slowly disappears from conscious appreciation. This is why absence feels so powerful. Not because it manipulates anyone, because it interrupts certainty. For the first time in a long time, the pattern breaks. The familiar response doesn't arrive. The reassuring message remains unsent. The constant emotional availability quietly disappears, and suddenly, people have to experience reality without the comfort they never realized they depended on. Not everyone reacts the same way. Some never notice. Some notice immediately but remain silent. Others become uncomfortable without understanding why. Because your absence forces them to confront something they never questioned before. Your role in their life. That realization cannot be explained into existence. It must be experienced. This is something Carl Jung understood deeply. He believed that people rarely meet one another directly. Instead, they meet the image they've created of each other. A projection, a psychological shortcut. Most relationships are built around these invisible assumptions. The dependable one, the patient one, the strong one, the one who never leaves. But what happens when that image suddenly changes? The mind becomes unsettled, not because you've become someone different, because the old story no longer explains your behavior. That tension creates awareness, and awareness is where genuine perception begins. For the first time, people are forced to ask questions. They avoided while everything felt predictable. Who were you, really? How much were you carrying that nobody noticed? How much silence had you mistaken for acceptance? How much of your kindness came from love? And how much came from fear? These questions don't only belong to them. They belong to you, because disappearing is never just about being seen by others. It is about seeing yourself without the constant noise of external validation. There comes a moment when you stop checking whether someone replied. You stop measuring your worth by invitations, compliments, or attention, not because those things no longer matter, but because they no longer define you. That is when something subtle begins to change. You walk differently. You speak less but with greater certainty. You stop filling uncomfortable silences just to make other people comfortable. You no longer rush to rescue every conversation. And strangely, people begin listening more carefully, not because you've become louder, because you've stopped competing for space. Silence has a way of making every word carry weight. Those who constantly explain themselves become predictable. Those who choose their words carefully become unforgettable. But there is one final illusion almost everyone must confront before this. Transformation is complete. The illusion that disappearing is something you do to change other people. It isn't. It never was. The greatest misunderstanding about silence is believing it exists to influence someone else's behavior. It doesn't. Silence is not a strategy for control. It is a mirror. And mirrors have an unsettling habit. They reveal what noise has been hiding all along. When you stop chasing, the people around you are forced to continue without the version of you they had quietly taken for granted. Some will notice immediately. Others won't notice at all. And that difference tells you more than months of conversations ever could. For a long time, you believed every relationship could be saved with enough patience, enough understanding, enough sacrifice. But eventually a difficult truth begins to emerge. Not every connection survives honesty. Some only survive convenience. The moment you stop making everything easy, the illusion begins to crack. People who valued your presence will seek understanding. People who valued only your availability will often react with confusion or resentment, not because you've become selfish, because you've become unavailable to old patterns. That is what truly disturbs people. Not your silence, your change. Every relationship develops an invisible balance over time. Roles are assigned without discussion. One always apologizes first. One always reaches out. One always compromises. One always absorbs the emotional weight. The arrangement feels normal because it has existed for so long. Until one day, it doesn't. You decide that peace no longer requires self-erasure. That kindness no longer means abandoning your own needs. That love without respect is only another form of emotional exhaustion. And suddenly the balance shifts. Some people call this distance, others call it pride. But neither description is accurate. It is simply the moment you stop negotiating your own worth. Friedrich Nietzsche once suggested that becoming who you are requires losing the versions of yourself created to satisfy everyone else. Most people imagine transformation as adding something new, more confidence, more discipline, more knowledge. But real transformation often works in reverse. It strips away performances that no longer belong to you. The endless explanations, the constant availability, the fear of disappointing people who rarely considered disappointing you. Little by little, another version of you begins to emerge, quieter, steadier, less desperate to be understood, more willing to let actions speak where words once failed. This is not emotional distance. It is emotional maturity. Because maturity understands something the anxious mind cannot accept. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Not every opinion deserves your defense. Not every silence needs to be filled. Sometimes the strongest response is allowing reality to unfold without interfering. And reality has a remarkable way of revealing what effort often conceals. Those who genuinely value you begin moving closer, without being asked. Those who only valued your usefulness quietly drift away. For the first time, you no longer have to guess where you stand. The truth arrives on its own. That truth may hurt. It may expose years of one-sided loyalty. It may reveal that certain relationships survived only because you carried them alone. But pain born from clarity is different from pain born from illusion. One wounds you, the other frees you. Perhaps the deepest change happens in a moment no one else ever sees. Late at night, alone, you realize your phone has been silent for hours. The old version of you would have panicked, wondered what you did wrong, reached for another explanation, another apology, another attempt to pull someone back. But this time, you simply breathe. You understand that silence is no longer your enemy. It has become your teacher. It teaches you that loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. That peace is impossible while your identity depends on someone else's attention. That respect given only after endless sacrifice was never respect to begin with. And then, almost without noticing, you stop performing your value. You begin living it. You no longer need to convince anyone that your presence matters, because your life is no longer organized around being noticed. It is organized around being authentic. Ironically, that is when people begin to see you differently. Not because you demanded recognition, not because you disappeared as a game, but because you finally became someone whose peace could not be negotiated. And there is nothing more difficult to ignore than a person who no longer needs permission to exist. In the end, disappearing was never about leaving the world behind. It was about leaving behind the version of yourself that believed love had to be earned through constant availability. The silence did not change your value. It revealed it. Not to everyone, only to those who were truly paying attention. And perhaps for the first time, that includes you. If this reflection resonated with something you've been carrying in silence, don't let it end here. Subscribe to Power by Silence for more psychological explorations into human behavior, emotional mastery, and the quiet strength that most people never learn to recognize. And before you leave, tell me this. What was the moment you realized your silence said more than your words ever could? Sometimes a single honest answer reveals more than years of explanation. Until the next reflection, protect your peace, guard your energy, and remember, the people who truly value your presence will never require you to abandon yourself to keep it.